Besides, how do I actually start my garden? The question that I get asked the most is what the heck do I do with all this garden produce? And to that end, I have put together some of my favorite quick, easy dinner recipes. Today we're making curry in 20 minutes or less. Let's do it and use up some of this garden produce. Whenever we're trying to be quick and efficient with our cooking, we want to think about what's going to take the longest. So the first thing that we're going to do is turn on our rice pot. One thing beginner cooks really tend to struggle with is what goes in the pan when and how big or how small do I need to cut it. Right now we're trying to cook as quickly as possible, so we're going to want to cut our food a lot smaller than we would if we were cooking it down slowly over time. So this carrot is the hardest physical item that we have that we're going to put into this dish, so it's going to be one of the things that we want to put in the pan first. Other hard things are this ginger and this garlic, and you'll also notice I'm using a monster knife. There's a reason for that. It's basically because I grew up cooking with one knife. I love this knife because you can use it to crush things, and that also helps me speed up my prep time a lot because peeling garlic by hand takes forever, but crushing it makes it fall right out of its little peelings here. Another pro tip is to always have a compost bowl at the ready so you can put all of your little trash in it. You're not constantly running back and forth to the garbage. It'll help keep your kitchen cleaner. And then bonus, if you have chickens or pigs, you can give all the scraps to them. But if you're just cooking at home for yourself, you can actually put all of this stuff in a plastic bag, put it in the freezer, and then the next time you have some chicken bones, you throw it in a pot with some water and you've got yourself some delicious stock, starting off with just what you were gonna throw away normally. Here we go. We're gonna peel our garlic. We're actually gonna turn on the pan now so that it starts to warm up a little bit. Put it on a medium-high heat. Put in some grapeseed oil, which has a very high burn temperature, and so we're gonna pour this in there. My pan is not super clean to start with, and that's one of my other pro tips for cooking with speed. If you cook every day like I do, you don't really have to be super fastidious with the way you clean your pans. That's my great-grandmother's cast iron pan. Soap is not allowed to touch it. At the end of the night, I just rinse it out with water, and that's good to go for the next night. Another thing that takes a lot of time is peeling ginger, and because we're gonna be cooking it with our other stuff, I'm not gonna worry about the peelings. I grew up in rural Montana, and there wasn't a whole lot of good access to really quality Asian food ingredients there, so a lot of this stuff that I'm using, if you can't find it where you're at, you can actually just use the powdered version that you can get online or from your grocery store. It'll work just fine as well. We're gonna put these things in the pan right away. Now we want to get these carrots cut so they can go in there right at the start too. We're going to cut them really thin because we want this to cook really quickly. Another really hard thing that we have is these peppers. So we'll get them in there. That'll add a little spice, a little heat. If you want less heat, you can take the seeds out, but I love spicy food, so I'm going to put these in there just like this. Another thing with this that I don't think a lot of people think about is the stems on leafy things like your cilantro or your chard. The stem part is a lot harder than the leaf part. So we are going to also want to cook the stem part before we cook those leaf parts. Always give it a fresh little cut there so it's nice and good. Then I'm going to cut this. You see it's almost like celery up here at the top. But then as you start getting into the leaf, it gets softer and softer. So I'm gonna cut some of this leaf away and move this out of the way here. And then cut some more of the stem here. Then I'm gonna put those leaves aside. Here we've got some cilantro. I'm actually gonna cut the stems of the cilantro so that it cooks right into all the rest of that stuff, and then I'll leave these fluffy leaves at the top for later. And then those will be more of a garnishment, whereas this will go straight into the curry itself. So, oops, there's that gross little leaf right there. We'll take that out. This little squash is a little bit hard, so we're gonna cook that right at the beginning as well. We've got our little onions, we've got our aromatics over here starting to cook with our carrots, and this is gonna be delightful. You might put a little salt in there. Ghost pepper flakes from last season. Because the squash does have a little bit of a hard exterior, we're gonna cook that a a little bit sooner too, but I would say that this is about the same texture as this, so we'll let those things cook down a little bit first, but then we'll go ahead and toss these in the pan next. The good thing about curry or rice bowls or any of these quick and easy meals is that you can do a whole lot of ingredient substitution, basically just using whatever you have. I don't know if I've ever even put chard in curry before, but I had some chard and it seems like a good idea. We've got some okra. I know okra is good in everything. And it's kind of like this medium softness, a lot like the squash as well. So I know it's gonna cook well with that. Notice here I'm not having to run back and forth to the trash can because I've got my little goodie box right here. Another quick tip here as far as your dinner prep goes, you'll see me using a lot of the same ingredients in a lot of different dishes, and that's actually on purpose because then I only have to have, you know, a certain variety on hand. Another thing that we really want to make sure gets in the pan sooner than later is the very ends of these scallions. The end is like, you know, very onion textured, but down here is a lot more leafy. So once again, going by our hardness scale, we're gonna put the ends in that pan with the aromatics cooking down right now. And then as we get up towards the leafy bits up top, we're gonna actually just go ahead and use those as a garnishment for the top of our food once it's done. Once we start getting really soft in here, we'll switch to just chopping them like we did the cilantro. One thing I was so excited to grow when we moved here to Tennessee was lemongrass. Another thing that I would imagine they don't tend to have at a regular grocery store here in Tennessee, but the climate is absolutely right for it. And so lemongrass is a fantastic thing to put in salads, to put in soups, to put in curries. Obviously, I love putting it in my rice bowls. But yeah, this is an absolutely great one. This one is, though, super hard, so I'm glad I remembered it now and not later. I'm gonna take all of this over with my scallions and put those in the pan right now. We've got all this stuff cooking down really nicely. One way that you can easily add a whole lot of complexity of flavor is by kind of just letting things chill in the pan and get, you know, a little bit of a burn on them. You don't want to actually burn it, but let it sit around so it can crisp up there. And then when you add the sauces, it's just going to give that, you know, extra depth of flavor. Well, because we're waiting for that, I'm going to toss some corn in here. I wasn't going to, but we got time. I like using corn when it's fresh because it adds a little bit of extra sweetness. I don't love putting sugar in my food, but it tastes good sometimes. So here we get it a little bit naturally. I think a lot of professional cooks get really annoyed with my knife choice, but really it's just that I'm so used to using a knife like this for basic prep that I don't really think about the fact that I'm using it once I'm doing more refined activities. Okay, so what you see left on the board here is all like similar hardness items. So these are gonna be all good things to add to the pan all at the same time. And if you are using powders like turmeric or curry powder rather than a pre-made paste or a homemade paste, you would want to add those in now. I actually really like using this paste, and I was super thankful I could order it online. I actually have a link for this below if you want to get some of yourself. This is one of my favorite pastes. Curry pastes are a great thing to start purchasing the real thing, because making your own actually takes a bunch of time and a lot of ingredients that are kind of hard to come by. One way that you can actually add a whole bunch of depth and flavor to your food, whether you're making traditional curry or not, is to actually put a little bit of this curry paste in there, because it has all kinds of things. Ginger, garlic, onions, turmeric, curry, galangal, lemongrass, all those things, just kind of chilies built into it. So just a little squeeze of that and you've saved yourself 30 minutes of prep work and a whole bunch of exotic ingredients. My protein for this is going to be this leftover steak that we have. It can actually be a vegetarian curry, or if you want to add ground beef, chicken thighs, chicken breasts, whatever you want to it. Oh, in fact, I just remembered, I have some shredded chicken. And the last time I bought a whole chicken in the freezer, so that would be a great thing to put. Good night. Whew. Now you see why my kitchen is never clean. All right, so all this stuff that's the similar hardness is gonna go in the pan all at once here. Another way that I really love to save time is by doing meal prep. And a super pro tip for that is to think of meals that use a similar set of ingredients. And so this is no exception. I was making a rice bowl earlier, switching over to make curry. I'm basically using all the same stuff. I'm able to get a bunch of stuff cleared out of my fridge, and I was able to use a whole bunch of stuff from the garden. I'll put those aside. Then I'll cut up my protein, my leftover steak. And that's actually kind of what started this whole thing. I was trying to decide if I should make steak curry or if I should make steak salad, a little citrus. Ugh, actually, well, now I wonder if I made the wrong choice. This will be good though. But with this, one rule of thumb when you're cooking any kind of meat is never let that juice or anything go to waste. I'm actually gonna scoop all of that into the pan. It's gonna flavor what is already going on in here just a little bit more. Get all the goodness out of there. I'm just gonna cut this up into some little bite-sized pieces. And I've got about 5 minutes left. I wanna put all the rest of these leafies in and let them cook down. Basically, we just want them to wilt. We don't want them to stew or to lose their flavor. We just want to get some of the flavors that are in the pot in them as well. Put the lid back on. Give it another 2 minutes or so. We're getting close. It also smells so good in here. Okay, so while I'm waiting for that, I'm gonna cut up some of these steak pieces, and we'll be generous with the steak pieces. We'll leave them like that. And this will go in at the very, very end because we don't want the steak cooking any more than it already is. All right, those veggies are all cooked down. The leaves are wilted. This is perfect, perfect, perfect. All those flavors are in there now. It's time to add the coconut milk. I love coconut milk so much. I'm allergic to almonds, so I can't have any other milk replacers, which, let's be honest, I have a milk cow. I'm not trying to replace any milks, but coconut milk just has this unique flavor. It's so good in desserts. It's so good in so many good things. But my favorite way to have it is in curry. And mango sticky rice. Last flavor things that we want to put in the pot. We definitely want to do some soy sauce. We put salt in earlier. Soy sauce is its own saltiness too. We don't want to put it in at the beginning because overcooked soy sauce will leave a kind of strange flavor. But this adds a little bit of saltiness that's really unique to soy sauce, a little umami flavor. Normally I would put a little sugar in here, but because we have that sweet corn, that should bring some of those sweet flavors out. We're going to put the cilantro and the scallions up top, which will make it really good. We need a little acid in our curry. I'm doing it in the form of some lime juice. That'll really help to bring out some of the other flavors. I'm gonna add a little tiny dash of sesame oil just for the flavor that it's gonna add. Not too much, or it'll ruin it. To garnish the plate, we're gonna get a little bit of fresh basil, so let's pop out here and grab some from my raised herb planter. Some of this, some of this. This is the Thai basil right here. If you love learning about homesteading and working with your hands as much as I do, check out my Squarespace website, anneofalltrades.com. I've been hosting my blog there for the last 8 years, sharing all kinds of things from restoring old tools to how to cut dovetails to what to do when your goats have babies and family recipes and everything in between. Squarespace has been a fantastic platform for a busy person like me who is also not very tech savvy to be able to drag and drop whatever I want to share with the world into a beautiful artist design template. I'm able to host an online store where people can look at my merchandise or the spoons that I carve and the furniture that I build. If you want to have your own website but aren't quite sure where to start, go to squarespace.com. And when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/AnneOfAllTrades and you'll get a 10% discount. Okay, so just in the nick of time, we've reached our 20-minute buzzer. I'm gonna put this on top here. Burp. Burp. Give this all a stir. We'll turn off the heat and we'll plate it up. We've got some jasmine rice. If you want a rice tutorial, check out my rice bowl video. You can learn how to make rice 2 ways, with or without an Instapot. And we'll take some of our curry here. Put it all around.
I loved cooking with you today. If you want more homesteading tips, check out this playlist. I'll see you there. Cheers!